During Van Gogh's later years, when his relationship with his father deteriorated, when his family treated him like a stranger, and when all his relatives rejected him, only Theo stood by his side, supporting Vincent's daily needs and helping him to expand his artistic development. When Vincent was dying abroad, only Theo went to visit his deathbed. Coincidentally, after Vincent van Gogh passed away by 3 months, his younger brother Theo also passed away. It seems as if the heavens had arranged Theo as an angel to nurture Vincent's lonely soul on earth.
There's something like this family obligation, but with somebody being so difficult as Vincent, it is also quite easy to lift your hands off them and say, well, go your own way. I mean, to say goodbye to him. But that was something which, the same goes for the parents. They kept taking him back, which is incredible what he did to them up to the certain standards. And the same goes for Theo, so it goes one way the other way. But I think there must have been something with Theo, and he says so several times, that he sees something in his brother which is quite peculiar, which is something new, maybe some kind of genius, or some kind of, it's difficult to call it genius, but there is something different in him which he appreciates a lot, that he knows his brother's got something to say.
If we consider Van Gogh's father as the person who inspired him to develop the passion for the Christian faith and deep love towards nature, then perhaps Van Gogh's mother was the initial aspiration for Vincent's interest in art. Van Gogh's mother, Anna Carpenters van Gogh, was an amateur painter. She loved to paint subjects like plants and flowers. Hence many of Van Gogh's latter flower paintings were dedicated to his mother.
I am doing a portrait of Mother for myself. I cannot stand the colorless photograph, and I am trying to do one in harmony of color, and I see her in my memory.
For his parents, Van Gogh was a rebellious and an unfortunate child. Even though Van Gogh's mother loved him dearly, she felt deeply helpless towards his many deviant behaviors. According to scholars, the year before Van Gogh's death, when he was institutionalized in the mental hospital in south of France, Van Gogh's mother wrote a letter to Theo. I believe he was always ill, and his suffering and ours was a result of it. Poor brother of Vincent, sweetest, dearest Theo, you have been very worried and troubled because of him. I would ask, take him, Lord. According to Ron, because of Van Gogh's family status, Van Gogh's mother constrained them from playing with the farmers' children for fear that they would become too rough. However, this didn't diminish the young man's sympathy and love for his countrymen. There was one time when an elder peasant, Jan Artsen, was seriously ill. Van Gogh went back from Etten to Rijsbergen, a small village close to Groot Zandert, overnight just to be at his deathbed and to see him one last time.
Yesterday morning I got a letter from Pa, in which Pa wrote that Aartsen was dying and how Pa has been there again, as he wished to see and speak to Pa again. When I heard that, my heart was drawn to Zandert so strongly that I felt the need to go there again. I'll never forget that noble head lying there on the pillow. One saw, besides the signs of suffering, an expression of peace and something holy. Oh, it was so beautiful. I'd say that it spoke of all the singularity this land has and the life of these Brabant folks.
All his life, Vincent van Gogh has maintained love for the poor workers. Today, most people are familiar with Van Gogh's paintings, mainly of bright sunflowers, deep starry sky, or of the sower under brilliant sunshine. However, people who are living in pain, struggling at society's bottom level, has been Van Gogh's favorite painting topics. He even claimed to be a farmer's painter.
When I call myself a peasant painter, that is a real fact, and it will become clearer and clearer to you in the future. I feel at home in the country, and it has not been in vain that I spent so many evenings with the miners, and peat diggers, and weavers, and peasants, musing by the fire, unless I was too hard at work for musing. By witnessing peasant life continually, at all hours of the day, I have become so absorbed in it that I hardly even think of anything else. In fact, I have no other wish than to live deep, deep in the heart of the country and to paint rural life.
We know that Vincent van Gogh was a very quiet child. Nobody really remembered him. But after his death, every single detail of this great artist was commemorated.
As far as we can make out, he was a bit timid, a bit shy, to himself a bit. He loved nature, he loved the surroundings, the area around Zundert. We don't have that much information, only side information from his mother, from his sisters. For instance, he didn't have much friends, as far as we know. People who were tracked down afterwards and in the 20th century to make investigations in Zundert, people who knew him by the time. And nobody could really quite remember him well, although they had maybe been at school with him. So it is a bit difficult to say, but he was self-centered in a way.
Van Gogh only lived for 37 years. He only began his painting career around the last 10 years of his life. So can we identify any artist characteristics from this innocent young boy?
Well, I think this attention for detail, this love of nature, looking closely at things, there's one telling thing is when he has this accident with his ear in Arles and Theo comes over to the south of France to help him, and they spend one evening together at his bedside. And he remembers all kinds of things from the village in Zundert. He can map out quite extraordinarily, so that all the rooms in the house, so the sitting room to all the bedrooms, the garden, he can even walk outside in his head and imagine where he was. He even remembers a magpie's nest high up in a tree, things like that. So it must have made an enormous impression as when he was a boy.
During my illness, I again saw each room in the house at Zundert, each path, each plant in the garden, the views round about, the fields, the neighbors, the cemetery, the church, our kitchen garden behind, right up to the magpie's nest in the tall acacia in the cemetery. That's because I still have the most primitive memories of all of you, of those days.
At the age of 13, Van Gogh was sent to a boarding school at a nearby village. Later, he worked in The Hague for a short period in the art dealing business. But the young, ambitious heart did not settle for that position. After traveling to Brussels, Van Gogh followed some art studies there, but eventually he moved to France. Van Gogh spent most of his time away from home and away from the warmth of his loved ones. When he was drifting from place to place, very often he missed home and poured out his nostalgia in long letters to Theo. What was it exactly that he was longing for?
I think it was especially the family he knew from this hometown and the happy years. And Van Gogh, you should remember that he wasn't able to find a proper wife, so he stayed a loner all of his life, and he missed that a lot. And that's what he yearned for. Especially in the period in Arles and Saint-Remy, when he became ill. He had dreams about his birth house in Zundert, and he painted a lot of what he called memories from the north. And they are kind of small hay countries with small farms which are inspired on this region.
We may say that Groot Zundert symbolizes Van Gogh's joyful childhood. In his later life, the peacefulness and warmth of his hometown were often missing.
When we drove back from Zundert that evening, Father and I walked a while. The sun was setting red behind the pine trees and the evening sky was reflected in the pools. The heath and the yellow and white and grey sand were so full of harmony and sentiment. See, there are moments in life when everything, within us too, is full of peace and sentiment. And our whole life seems to be a path through the heath, but it is not always so.
At the end of our Zundert journey, we met Dragan Despotovic, around the corner of Van Gogh's birth house. He is an artist from former Republic of Yugoslavia. using potatoes to recreate one of Van Gogh's early paintings, The Potato Eaters. The Expirate artist told us that working at this great artist's birthhouse inspires him every day. Van Gogh also finds Groot Zondert to be inspiring in every direction. However, to Van Gogh, Zondert is inspiring because here is his home.
We know from the widow of Theo that when Van Gogh got shot in the field of Aver, he walked back to his own rented apartment. And when Theo heard about this, he flew right away to his deathbed from Paris. And when his dear brother was laying next to him in his bed, Vincent uttered the words, just like in Zondert. He remembered Groot Zondert because here is where his short but abundant life began.